Good afternoon. My name is Rosalind Lee and I am one of the Microsoft Innovative Educators in Scotland and a Microsoft Fellow in Scotland, and my day job is a Digital Development Officer for North Ayrshire Council. Today we're going to be having a wee look at SWAY, and also we're going to be joined in about 20 or 30 minutes by Sarah Clark. So what I'm going to do first of all is I am going to share my screen with you and let you have a wee look at what SWAY is all about. So there we go, looking at the presentation there. So we're going to have a look at how to create multimedia presentations in SWAY. So as I say, my name's Rosalind Lee and we're going to be joined by Sarah, who is from Queen Anne High School, and we are going to be talking about SWAY, and we're going to be talking about slightly different things. I'll just explain that to you in a minute. But before we get started, if there's any questions you've got, if you could ask them in the chat, or if you're watching this later on, a recording, you can tag us on Twitter or tag Tablet Academy Scotland on Twitter as well. So today's session, we're going to look at creating SWAY from scratch and how to share a SWAY, and these are the parts that I'm going to talk about. And then Sarah's going to talk about creating SWAYs from other documents, examples, and also talking about the analytics. Now, probably as we go through, I'll talk about how I use SWAY as well. I'm not based in a classroom, so I use them for slightly different things than a teacher would in a classroom. So what is a SWAY? You can create beautiful presentations, reports, newsletters, personal stories, and so on. Even I've seen children creating CVs with a SWAY as well. You can create anything at all. It's interactive. You can embed lots of different things in a SWAY, and we'll talk about that as we go through. I use them for newsletters, and also use them for my training schedules to send out to schools. And I've also used them with children in schools where we actually created digital stories. I started a digital story on the Monday morning, and it went to a school, and they added they developed the story, and then it moved on to another school, and it went throughout the week, and the story went back to the original class on the Friday afternoon to see what the story was like. And they were really good fun, and the children really enjoyed doing them. So that was just another example of the use of them. A lot of people compare SWAYs to PowerPoint, but it's not structured like a PowerPoint. It's a storyline that flows rather than slides, although you can make them look like slides. Again, we'll look at that later. But it's much easier to follow than a PowerPoint, as it can be read like a story or web pages. Being a live document, it means that regardless of who it's been shared with, changes to the main SWAY are reflected in every shared copy. For example, my training calendar, once I've done a session, I remove it from the SWAY so that it's not there and people don't have to trawl through lots of things that have already happened. And everybody sees that updated version because it reflects anything I do to it is reflected in any copy that anybody's got. Anything you do in a SWAY is also auto-saved, and you can click undo if you do make a mistake, but SWAY will choose a layout and style at random, which I'm not particularly, part of me doesn't really like that. I'm a bit of a control freak about things. Some people like that, prefer it, and it's really good to use with children because they don't really waste a lot of time on things like the background and so on. So it just chooses that as you begin a new one. So let's go and have a wee look at what SWAY is like. So this is a SWAY homepage here. Now, Sarah's going to talk a wee bit more about that later on. It lists all your SWAYs, and I am going to go down here to all SWAYs. And this is a list of SWAYs, and the two that we're going to look at today are the solar system ones. So I've got two SWAYs prepared there, and I'm going to go and look at the solar system first of all. Now this one is it's in the storyline. This is in the editing part of it, the sort of dashboard, if you want to call it that. And I'm going to play the SWAY first of all to let you see what it looks like. Now, as I say, it chooses the style and so on at random, but I have actually changed it to suit what I want it to look like. So you'll notice there's several buttons on it. We'll talk about edit. If we click edit, it takes us back to the screen that we saw before. We can share the SWAY in different ways, and there's settings as well, but we'll look at that a wee bit later on. Down at the bottom here, we have a forward and back button, and we also have different sections, so we can skip to different sections in the SWAY. I've only got 4 sections in mine, so it's not huge by any means. So if we go through the SWAY, you can see there that it's put a picture inside the border there where the text is, which is quite nice. I've then got a section about the planets, and I've got a website embedded in here. So if I click on that, it's going to take me out into the internet, and it's going to take me direct to a website. If I move on to my next section, I've got photographs of the asteroid belt, and I've got a single photograph here, and this is called a stack, so I can layer up photographs, and we can also expand it and make them bigger, and we can look at all the photographs in the larger screen there. So there's several different ways of laying out images, which again I will explain to you. Going on here to the moon, we have got a YouTube video here embedded in this section, and if I click on that, it's going to play, and I can also make the screen bigger. I can make it full size.
Moons orbit the solar system's planets, and one of those moons.
And I'm going to stop that there. So moving on to our next section. The last section is about the sun, and in this one I have a small audio file there, and it's just me speaking about just a couple of sentences about the sun. So you can see there's various different things that can be embedded within the SWAY, and again we'll look at more options later on. This is the same content. This is exactly the same content as the SWAY we've just looked at, except it's the vertical view, and you'll notice there's no backwards and forwards buttons there, because we basically just scroll up and down this the way we would a website. Again, we've got the buttons up at the top, which we'll talk about later. But there we go. We've got slightly different layout. The picture's not in with the text. It's sitting to the side. We've got the planets. We've got the link there. So as I say, the content's exactly the same, but it's just slightly different layout to the other one. And you'll see down at the bottom here, there's a footer. I removed the footer from the other one, or you would have seen that at the end of the other SWAY, but I've taken that one away in the other SWAY. So vertical or horizontal, you've got the different views there. Now, what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to go back to the edit, and I'm going to explain what the edit screen looks like. Excuse me. Now, when you create a SWAY, all you get is a title card. You get a card at the top, and that's all you've got, and it's up to you to add these cards into the storyline as you see fit. So what I did here was, I first of all started with a text card, and to add a card, all I would do is click the wee plus button there. The kind of cards I've got heading cards and text cards. So this is a heading card here, and the text card down below. I've got media, and I can put in images. I can put video in. That could be YouTube videos. It could be videos that I've uploaded from my computer. It could be videos in Microsoft Stream. And sorry, touched that there. I can put audio in. I can embed things like Google Maps. I can embed tweets as well. And the last thing there is group. So these are the different arrangements of the photographs that I can put in. So automatic, it will take, you could put in 6 photographs, and it will automatically arrange them in a particular way. We've got a grid view. This is more natural. If you've got photographs horizontal and a portrait and landscape, it will automatically sort them. The grid one will give you photographs in a grid. Your comparison's a slider, so you could put 2 photographs of something. Say, for example, it was a volcano and then a picture of a volcano erupting. You could slide between the 2 pictures to see the difference. We've got the stack, which I showed you, and we can also have a slideshow as well, which basically arranges the photographs or the images, and it's just like a slideshow. You would just click to move on. So that's how you would add a card. So we've got different cards here, and you can see it tells us that's a text card, that's an image card. And you'll also notice that round about each section, there's a sort of slightly darker grey box. So every time I choose a heading, it gives me a brand new grey box. So there's my one for the asteroid belt, and within it I have got the stack. Now I've uploaded all these photographs here, and then I chose the stack method, and you'll see there's the photographs there, and I can either ungroup them or I can change the group type, and that's what I was talking about earlier, to do the grid and so on, all the different versions of arrangements for your photographs. There's my video card down here for the moon, and if I go right down to the bottom, I'm actually going to add a card to this to let you see how easy it is. So my next card is going to be a heading, and it's going to be the Kennedy Space Centre. And I'm going to add a text card because I want to put in a wee bit of text, and I've got a Word document here that I have got some text from. I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste it into there. Now you will notice the text looks quite small there. I can make the text, I can change the emphasis and make the text slightly bigger. I don't have the option to choose fonts, or there's a few fonts, but there's not a huge variety of fonts, and I don't have the option to really change the size of the font. We'll talk about that again when we look at the design. You can change it by making the emphasis bigger, and you can also, there's also an option in the design tab to change the size of the font, but it's small, normal and large. It's not in, you don't have any points or anything like that. You can't choose 36 point or whatever. So the next thing I am going to do is I am going to add an image, and if I choose image, now you will see here that along here we've got some ideas, and what Sway does is when you are typing words in, it will automatically start looking for photographs that it thinks that you may want to use. So this one's about the Kennedy Space Centre. So if I click on Kennedy Space Centre, it's going to look for images of the Kennedy Space Centre. And this is one reason why it is really, really good for children, because they don't waste time going away out into the internet and getting all lost in the Google image search. And then there's also the issue with copyright. You'll notice up at the top here, it says Creative Commons only. I've left it ticked at that, and if I wanted to, I could untick it. But if I want to share my Sway publicly and let other people see it, if I want to tweet it out, I don't want to be using copyright images because I could get into bother. So it's always a good learning point with the children as well, to tell them to keep the Creative Commons on so that they're only using copyright-free images, and they also come with the credit. So I'm just going to choose that one there, and all I do is drag the image over to there. Now, what I can do with the picture is if I choose focus points, I can say the entire image is important, and you'll see it changes in the box below. It lets you see what the image is going to look like in the Sway. I can also choose focus points. So if I decide that it's only this bit of the picture that I want, you'll see it changes all the time, the image on the screen below. So it's going to pick what I have decided is important. So I can decide that part's more important to me than the other parts. I can also put in I'm going to put in a media card, and I'm going to put in an embed card. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Google Maps, and I am going to look for the Kennedy Space Centre. And it's there. And there is the Kennedy Space Centre there. And what I can do with that is I can share that. There we go, we'll take this. There we go. I've got the share there, and I'm going to choose embed code for it. So if I copy the embed code there, and I go back to my Sway, if I pick the right one, there we go. And all I do is paste the embed code into that, and that's going to put that live map into my Sway. Now, if I go to play, I'm just going to have a wee look and see what that has actually done. So I'm going to choose this to go straight to it. So there's the bit that I've put in. And there is the Google map, and you'll see it's entirely live it's pulled in the Google map, and I can zoom in and out of the map there. So that's what it will do with the embed code can do. You can also embed tweets into your Sway as well, if you wish. So other thing that you can do there, you'll notice it actually says that you can put in SoundCloud, you can put in files from SoundCloud, you can also put in links to SharePoint, and Microsoft Forms will display within the Sway as well. And again, that's another use of Sway that I know of, was a music department during lockdown who were creating forms as a way of assessment, and you can upload files in, you can upload music files into a form. So what they were doing was they were embedding the forms in the Sway, and they were putting videos and sound files and so on into the Sway and directing the pupils to the particular part of the Sway for that. So that's another use of them that you've got there. So you can see that there's a whole lot of things that you can do with your Sway. There's a whole lot of media, different things that you can add to the Sway to make it look more attractive, to make it more engaging. Now, what I'm going to move on to now is talk about the design of the Sway. One thing I should have said before we move on is if you don't like the arrangements of these, if you decide you want that picture above the text, you just move it and you drop it in. And let's go and see what that looks like now. It's moved the picture up on top of to the front of the Sway, so you can actually change the arrangement of your Sway by just simply lifting. You look for the 4 arrows and you lift and you just drag it right down there. So if I now go on to design, lets me see what it looks like. And if I go to styles, it's going to let me see that this one's a horizontal one. Now, I've shown you a vertical one. The slide one will just show you each part in a slide. So it's not sharing a bit of you'll have noticed that a bit of the card has kind of gone into the next part. But if I changed it to slides, it would be one card, one section on each slide. I can also decide what theme I'm going to use, and there's a whole lot. There's 7 different types of theme, all sorts of colours, and you can also customise. Now, this is the one that I've chosen here. I use this one quite a lot because I quite like it. It's a sort of textured background, and if I choose customise, what I can do is I can either just stick to these colours that are here. There's pink, purple, blue, and so on. But you can also use your images. So it will take the colour from your inspiration from your photographs, so or your images. If I click on that, it's going to give me an option to have a darker background here and so on. You can see it's picking up the colours from the images. What you also can do, if you remember I said earlier on, is limited font. These are the fonts here that you've got. And the top font is what you would get in your titles and your headings, and the bottom font is what you would get as the text. I use that one quite often. It depends, obviously, what you're doing them for. If you're doing them for children, it might be you want a more dyslexic-friendly font than some of them. For example, the Rary Macintosh one is quite, it might be a bit more difficult to read than the other ones that maybe that I would use. So I'll go back to this one. I'll choose Arial Nova, for example. That's a good one an easy one to read. I can also change the animation emphasis from moderate to intense. Now, if I move it to intense, it means that some of the pictures may move. Now, it wouldn't work with every single style, but if I change it to intense, let's see if it does this. With this one, no, it's not doing it. It sometimes will make your picture come out. It sort of moves in backwards and forwards in the image, in the frame, and it actually can cause motion sickness, so I tend not to use it. You can change your text size. As I said, you've got small, normal, and large. So if we take it down to small, it's really, really small. And if we take it up to large, it's not massive text, but you do have some options, and there's some sort of in-between options as well there. There's 5 different options there on the scale. So you've got the opportunity to change the styles and so on of your of your sway. There's also, if you notice, there's a remix button, and that's basically it will give you just different styles at random. And I don't really use remix, to be honest. You can use it and then use undo, but it will only do undo so many times. So I don't tend to use remix. If you're feeling brave, fine, but I don't really tend to use remix. As I said earlier on, I'm too much of a control freak. You would just choose your style, and you would change, you would customize your color and your font as well. So if I now go up to the settings up here, now there's different settings. There's settings within this part of the sway here, and there were also settings that you could look at when you were actually displaying the sway. So my options here, I can create, I can duplicate the sway. Now I quite often do that. That's obviously something I did with this one. I duplicated it and I changed the layout. I wanted you to see the two different layouts. So you can duplicate the sway. You can also duplicate it and you can share it with a colleague to change. So again, we'll talk about that when we're looking at sharing options. You can save it as a template. So if you decide that you've got something that you're going to be using again and again, but maybe different content, you can save it as a template. There is an ability to print. I've never printed one in my life. I don't see the point, and I know this is a personal choice, but I personally don't see the point in printing something that's online. You can export it as a PDF file, and we've also got accessibility checker and accessibility view here. We've also got settings for the sway. So if I go to settings, I can show the text direction buttons. I can use a right to left layout instead of left to right. I can stop people duplicating the sway. I can also stop people changing the layout of the sway, and I can show, if you remember, I took it away from this when I've taken the informational footer away, and you can also autoplay the sway, and that's maybe not a good idea if you've got a lot of text, because you don't really know how long it's going to take. It will move from 3 to 60 seconds. But if you don't know how long it's going to take somebody to read text, then it's maybe not a good idea to do it. If it was mainly graphics based, if you had a lot of images and not a lot of text, you could maybe use autoplay and it will just run through the sway itself. And you don't have to actually move it on yourself. So that's the settings here. If I go back to play, you'll see the settings are slightly different. There's not, because this is not the editing view, so this is what a viewer would see. They don't see, if you've allowed them to do these things, obviously, but they wouldn't see the accessibility checker and so on. So that's the autoplay settings there, and you can loop continuously. And this is something that, again, has been used in schools where maybe it's a parents' night and they want to show a sway and they just want it to loop continuously all night while parents are in at the parents' night. So that's something that you can use there too. The last thing that I am going to look at here is share. And what you can do here is you can choose whatever way you want to share it. Now, I use anyone with a link a lot because I tweet these out. Because I use them for newsletters and because I use them for training calendars, I want anybody to be able to see them. So I would choose anyone with a link for that. Specific people or groups allows you to add somebody, their email address there in the way that you would share maybe a OneDrive document, and those in your organisation with the link is everybody within Glow. And you can invite people to view or edit. If you decide that you want to share your sway with a colleague, you would choose specific people or groups and you would allow them to edit if you want them to edit it, and they could save it and use it themselves. You can also get a visual link, which just gives you a nice wee graphic there, instead of just the URL there. And other options there is that you can take the share buttons away, or you can also ask for a password if you wanted to protect the sway a wee bit. So that's your options within share up here and the settings that we've looked at. Now, can I hear Sarah Clark in the background there?
Yes, you can. You can hear me. I came in just as the point, that's me just home from school. And I came in just at the point when you said about printing it. And just to give a case example, so obviously we don't print sways very often. but we use them as an option for our students to potentially do for their added value. So with their added value in science, they can create a poster, they can create a report, they can create it in a variety of different ways to show and demonstrate their learning. And we've then printed it off, put it into their folio so that that evidence is there for them. Because I actually went looking for one of my students' ones today for it as an example, and it's not there. So the student obviously has now moved on. They don't have access to the SWAY, and I was like, oh, it was a really good one too. Because as an example, the student had used it as their added value. So it had the content in it. They had put in some graphics in it. And what they'd also done is, one of the requirements for us in science is they have to take a piece of data and they have to transfer it into a different form. So for example, a table into a graph. So they put the original piece of data in there, and then they'd drawn a graph by hand and then took a picture of their graph and uploaded that. So we still had everything digitally, but because they were moving from a different member of staff throughout the year, and going from third year into fourth year, we kind of do it at the end of third year, just as the timetable changes and they move into fourth year. That way we were able to print it off, put it into their folio, and the teacher was then able to keep a copy of it. So there is sometimes when we have printed them off, although not very often.
Yes, I suppose that's the difference in, you know, working with pupils, and I'm not doing them for pupils. So for me, it's not, I would never think of printing it off because it's not what I want it for, but that is a very good thing. And the other thing as well, we know that when pupils leave school, they lose their Glow accounts. So it might be that a 6th year, if you wanted something and they've left school, their SEMAS records closed, their Glow accounts closed, and they don't have it anymore. But I suppose if they've got a paper copy of it, you know, it's evidence of something that they've done. So, yeah.
Yeah, so again, we can print it off and send it in for moderation or anything like that as well. So we don't do it very often, but it has got that feature there if it needs to. So yeah, I was kind of, the last 5 minutes I've been following along online. I was seeing what you were doing on it and giving everybody a run through of SWAY. And I think, you know, it's one of those tools that I think most people I first became aware of it. It was a Tablet Academy session over in Edinburgh at the museum. And it must be about 8, 9, 10 years ago that they were doing it, and SWAY had just came out. And I remember being like, there's nothing, I've never seen anything like this before. This is completely brand new. And we use it a lot with our students. We use it a lot as teachers in our school, particularly in our subject. And I think from a student point of view, that collaboration you just said about sharing it and collaborating, that's what our students do. They rarely are working on their own on a SWAY. We ask them, I've got lots of different examples, but we ask them to collaborate together. So they will share that collaboration link with one of their group. They share that sometimes in Teams, in a OneNote, they email it to each other, and they can go in and then they can work on it together. So I think it's about 10 pupils you can have at any one time on a SWAY. Any more than that, it doesn't allow them to log in. But we do it a lot for kind of collaboration and looking at ways. Although my daughter does say, I don't like that I can't really edit it, but I think that's the beauty of it. You're focusing on the content rather than focusing on all the whiz-bang fancy bits that it does. And as an alternative to a presentation, a lot of the time we get the kids to make PowerPoints. So this is an alternative to that. And I think it's then much easier to share out the SWAY than it is to share out a PowerPoint, for example. So
yeah, because it's certainly something I know when I worked in a school, I used to get children, before SWAY was around, I used to get children to do PowerPoints. And I always said to them, leave the fancy bits till the end, put your content in, get all that done. And without, you know, you get to slide 2 and suddenly we had yellow text and all sorts of strange things, which I mean, you can't really read yellow text anyway. They never listened to anything I said about the design of it. But I just think that it's much easier from their point of view. It's that if you can stop them being tempted to go and look at the images, you know, it's something that's really good. And as a control freak, because I do have, and I have a thing about PowerPoint Designer as well, that I'm not, although I did use it in my PowerPoint for tonight, I'm not that keen because I can't control it. So it makes me a wee bit twitchy, but I think it's an absolutely fabulous tool for children and also for adults that don't really mind and they want maybe some design inspiration, whereas I like to do my own. But the one thing I didn't actually talk about, I was saying earlier on that you're going to talk about using templates and the uploading from an existing or using an existing document, and also about the analytics, and talk a wee bit more. I talked briefly about the sort of things that I use Sway for, but obviously you're different because you're you know, been in a school, so it'll be interesting to see some and hear some examples of what you've been doing.
Yeah, fully. You should be able to see, hopefully, my PowerPoint. That's coming up. You see that? You see that, Ross?
Yeah, there we go.
So yeah, I mean, in terms of taking over it, in terms of how I'm using Sway, we use it a lot, you know, from a teacher's point of view for asynchronous learning, for parental newsletters. As a school, we're doing that. I know the title was all about using Sway as a website. You know, I tend to talk about it more for kind of as a web link or to blog. And I think because once you've sent out that link and then you can update it, I think for parental newsletters it's great, because if you want to add something to it, you can do. I often we sat down with our admin staff at school and showed them how to use Sway, and very, very quickly they picked it up, and that's how we communicate with our parents now. And for blogging as well, if you want to then continuously update something, it's an easy way to do that. And we've used it for lab reports in science. We've used it for CPD resources, lots and lots of different ways that we're using it in the school with teachers and with pupils. And I've said the benefits, and I think you've probably gone through a lot of these already, Ros, but the data that it's giving you, the fact that it's just so easy to share with people, whether that's in an email to them, whether you're posting it in a team chat, whether you're adding it as a web link to the top of your team or in a group call out to your parents. Super easy to share it out with people, and you can control if that is going to a group of people, specific people within your Office 365 tenancy, or whether you want to have it sharing with everybody. So I'll just start taking you through the variety of styles and things like that we've done with them. So in terms of our asynchronous learning, just have to escape that out just now. This is an example that we use within science, and we've made these up pretty much for every key area in our course. And we started doing this during lockdown. We wanted somewhere where the students went, and I've shared these types of things before. We wanted the students to be able to go to one place and everything was in that one place. So we weren't getting them to look at this PowerPoint, go here for questions, go to this link so that you can watch a video. We put everything in the Sway. So this is for a National 5, and we've got some information. So we were able to embed videos. We actually embedded a YouTube video, and in our school, the students that were in class weren't able to access YouTube because they don't have access. So we were able to put in the YouTube video and also embed a click view video. And obviously students log in with their Glow so they can watch those. They get 2 options to the videos that they can choose from. We then have lots and lots of content for them with, you know, images that are in there. We've gone through and we've looked at what's the best layout for them. I'm just going to keep scrolling, because what we were also able to do was we could then put our tasks in. So the students work through a bit of content. They're then given a task to do. Here they were asked to make a PowerPoint or a Sway around the information that they had, but then they then go on to the next section. Again, there's images, there's text in there for them to read through. Eventually they get on to their next task, which here we go, task 2. So we've got questions then for them to sit down and do, and they just do them in their jotter. We were asking them to work through. And what we've found is that for students now who can't make it into class, so they're maybe working from home, they're off long-term sick, they're maybe anxious about coming back into school, we've now got a bank of these for every key area of our National 5. We've got most of them for our higher human biology. We've got some for our advanced higher as well. So it helps with that flipped learning approach. And in terms of then checking their understanding, we have embedded a form at the end. So we've gone to our form, we've gone to share, we've got the embed link, and we've put that in at the end. So each teacher, we put in an embed card, and we kind of leave that embed card blank, and then the teacher goes in and puts their own form link in there so that they get the information from their class, rather than it just being a generic form across the department, so that I can see the results from it. Sorry, were you going to say something?
It was just, that made me think about, I know one of my schools during lockdown, actually, it was a primary school, used Sway to give out the work. They actually did it for the week. They gave, because it was quite young children, and I think it was the easiest way, and they could share them out in Seesaw, for example, with parents, and they could support their children to do the work. So they basically put all the work for the week within the Sway, and the children just would get a Sway on a Monday morning, they would get a link on a Monday morning, and they just worked through the Sway. And that was just an easy, that was the first lockdown, and that was the easiest way they could think, short of emailing out to parents. That was what they did, which worked for them at the time. And
we're the same. We found it's worked, and it was a lot of work at the beginning, but we can then reuse these over and over again, because once we've made them, we've then got a bank of them. So, and then at the end, we just put in a little screenshot there, an image of what SQA says the students are needing to know, so they can hopefully, we've got everything in there for them. If the student is unable to be in class, they can still be working through the content at the same time. In terms of our parental newsletters, I think a lot of schools have now realised they've seen other schools doing every Friday. This is our e-bulletin that we send out. So you can see there we've got a nice big picture of our school campus, large school at Queen Anne there. And these are sent out to our parents with information, a little bit of an update as to what's going on in the school. I like the fact that we can add in links in there. This was a recent trip that we had that was able to be shared with the parents, so they could see the pictures of Duke of Edinburgh. So the fact that we can then put in content, we can put in pictures, we can put in videos there, we can add links and things to various external sites, we're able to put that all in one place. And that gets sent out on a Friday afternoon to all our parents via group call. It's also then embedded into our school website, so that people can go back and see them. And if you're familiar with a Sway in a Sway, you can actually then put old Sways together with new Sways and have them all kind of sitting in one place. So I think for a newsletter, whether that's a class newsletter, something that's going out to staff or parents, it's super easy. And then you're just sharing that with the anyone link. So in class,
and that's a nice example there at the beginning of the animation of I was trying, mine didn't work. It doesn't work in every single style, the animation, but that's I remember showing teachers a picture. It was a Sway about the moon, and the moon was moving out and in, and some of them said they felt a bit ill with it. So it's just a nice illustration there of what they can look like.
And
that one's moving as well.
Slight movement on that one as well. And again, he's doing that for us rather than us having to play about with it. And this was one that, again, we can add that to we can add this. This was January 2022, so the beginning of this year, when we were just kind of reminding parents about online learning, if their students were off ill and how they could keep up with it. So we'd sent out a little guide to them, just reminding them about Glow, and quick guide for parents when it comes to setting up teams, particularly for maybe our new students in first year that hadn't had this before. So we were able to take this Sway, we were then able to put that inside our newsletter Sway, and then send that out to our parent body. So I had a little video about what Glow was about, and what we did as well, we had this kind of 8-minute video showing them how the students could use Teams on their phone. And what we've done is we made that video in Flip. We then took the embed code from Flip and we put it in. So this is our own video that we've made there. We've then inserted that into it, and the parents can go through it. And what is good about it, and we'll come on to analytics, is we can actually see exactly how many people have been viewing it. And that's a big benefit for us, so you can see your parental views. And the last one was our CPD resources. So we do collate all our CPD resources in terms of digital learning. We put everything into a wakelet. But what is we have different sways potentially within a wakelet. So it's a one-stop shop, but within it, it's then broken down. So these are all our recordings that we did on screen, digital annotating, whiteboard, Kahoots, quizzes, all these things, these sessions that we've done with our school. And what we wanted to do was share the videos and have those videos in one place. Now, rather than saying, here's a video to Microsoft Whiteboard, here's a video to Kahoot, and them just being dotted everywhere, because they were videos that we had created, we were able to put those videos, we were able to upload those videos into the Sway. So again, it's that idea for staff that they can go in, it's one stop, they can watch the video, maybe kind of 20, 25 minutes of webinar that we did on Classroom Screen, and they can find out how it works, and they can go through all the different ones that we've got. And we, kind of update that as we do them. At the moment, we're back in person, so we're doing them face to face. But when we have our own online ones, we're able to just upload them in there. So one place where they know they can catch all those recordings rather than just having them kind of uploaded. Yeah. And that's added in Teams. So we just add that as a tab to the top of our team.
One thing's just occurred to me there. This was something I tried to do. I had made a Sway, it was probably right back at the beginning of lockdown, and I had put videos into it, and I wanted to take one of the videos for something else. You cannot actually take the videos back out the Sway, because fortunately I had kept them on, they'd been recorded on an iPad, and fortunately I had the original videos. But you cannot, if you upload a video into a Sway, you cannot then go back and download it and take it somewhere else. So if you do intend to use the video again for something else, you need to keep your original, just to be aware of that it's just not possible to do that.
Yeah. So we have them all kind of. I have all those recordings sitting somewhere, and then they're just put into the Sway so that people can access them. But as Ros was saying, being able to start you'll see when you get onto the Sway screen like this, what you've got is there was one image. I should probably come back. Actually, is it up here? I'll need to see. I think that's all my Sways. I'm going to come back in a wee minute. If I just click here, I'll go back to my office.com. A wee moment, and I go down to here we go. So this will be familiar for people that are accessing it, particularly within Glow. All the Sways that I've got are here. I've got them as little tiles. It could be a list that you've got for them. And when they're in this list, these are all the recent Sways that I've looked at. Now, these are not necessarily all Sways that I own. These are ones that I've looked at that have been shared with me, that I can go into. And what it shows you is how many views, how long people were, how long it took them to complete it, how many deep reads, quick reads, all that kind of thing. We shared out recently in so that online learning one that we shared out in January has had 850 views of it. So we know that when it's going out to our parents, it is being looked at by them. When it comes to I'm trying to see, there was one actually, our formal assessment timetable, that was added as a Sway to our Sway in the bulletin this week, and that alone had 661 views. And it was a very, very quick scroll through, because people are just looking for, students and parents are just looking for their formal assessment. And actually, that was one that I was able to upload from it was just images that I'd taken. So that was a document upload that we had. So it was just images. So it was super, super simple and super simple for people to flick through. You can, so if I go down, so these are all the Sways that I have kind of opened recently. And if I go in, I always click first of all on all Sways. And then it takes me to the page, kind of the Sway homepage. And again, these are the most recent ones that I've opened up. If I click see more, we can see all the Sways that are there. Trying to organize them can be very, very hard. Trying to find them can be hard. Thinking about the date that they were edited or by title is sometimes the easiest way to go about and find the ones that you're looking for. But what it will give you is along here, if you go to the analytics, you can have a little look. So you can see some of these are very old sways that I've got, but you can see how many views there was. So very similar to that other page, you can see how many views there was on it. You can see how long people were spending on it. So some of them are long, some of them are short, and it will do that for all of the sways that you have. And I think just having that analytics, particularly if you're sending something out to parents and you want to check that it is being looked at, then the analytics that it's giving you are extremely beneficial from it. But as Rose says, you can actually start from a brand new one. You can start from a topic. So this idea where you pick a topic and it will start giving you information on it, or you can go and you can start from a document. So if you've already got something there, I'm not going to pick one of my documents just in case, because we don't know what we're going to get. But you can pick a Word document. It will then input that information straight into it. I've actually got rid of a lot of my documents recently. If I've got anything in here that I'd be able to upload, but because I actually just cleared out everything recently. So you can go in, you can find a Word document, just being aware that when you start from a document, that it is going to put it in based on how it thinks it looks best. So let me just take, this was actually an eSchool lesson that I had done. It's too big because it's got something in it, unfortunately. I'll see if I can find another one. Questions,
I think that's the well, for me, that was a problem. I tried that to create one from a document, and it tries to work out what your titles are, what your title is, and what your headings are and things. And again, it's the control thing in me, you know, and it actually took me longer to sort it than it would have if I'd made it from scratch. So it just depends what it comes up like. That might be okay, actually.
That's not too bad, actually. I'll go into the play. So it's not exactly the same as the PowerPoint, but it has uploaded some stuff, and then you could go through and you could edit it. You can see there it's taken that information from one of the PowerPoint slides. It's put in the questions, because these were actually screenshots from past paper questions. So it has put them in, although it's not perfect for the way that I would want it to be done. But if you've got something you're trying to change it, then it's definitely worth having a look at that and saying, is it, as you said, going to take me longer to upload from a document? Or am I as well just starting from scratch? But that option is there when you're on it to upload from a document. I'll just go back to the edit.
I think another thing, just thinking about what that looked like, and I know you've done that as well, and if anybody's familiar with forms, we've had a recent addition that you can put things into a folder. You can't do that with Sway, so you see them all, but I try and use a particular background. And obviously, Sarah, you've got your Queen Anne High School ones there, you've got your badge. You kind of know what to look for in a way. I mean, in my digital newsletters, I use the same image in the heading so that I can find them. My training calendars, I use the same image in the head so I can find them as well. But it does. I've got Sways right back to about 2017, I think, quite a long time ago, and it's finding, and it does move them about if you look at them, or if you interact with them, if you change them, edit them, it moves them, it brings it back up. So I know from the pain.
From the template aspect, that was what when I first showed our office staff how to get started this way. That's what they've done. They're sending out a very similar e-bulletin every week. So they have that as a template shared between a couple of members of staff, and they then input that information every week so that the e-bulletin has a very similar look to it every week. It has very similar headings to it. And they're then just uploading their images or their content every week, so it looks the same at the top. And I think when we're sending out things whole school, whether that's staff, whether that's to parents, we do have that branding where we have the school badge there, we have the same similar images so that it looks very, very similar. So the parents know that it's coming from the school, and they've gone through it before. So I think because it looks similar, they know what it is that they're expecting. It's not something completely brand new, but being able to then embed a form at the end of it, you can then get the feedback from the parents too. So that's tomorrow night's session, which is forums, but being able to put that into a SWAY to get that information back out without, again, people don't then have to leave and go to another place to find it. It's all there in that one spot. So it is like a website, but I tend to call it kind of more like a web link when we talk about SWAY, because it's just super easy to put that information there for people to view it. And I like it scrolling up and down like a web page rather than it scrolling across.
I tend to do mine vertical. I just like that. I think because it's online, people are used to reading websites like that. We're not used to going sideways on a website. So I think that's I don't know, I much prefer the vertical. The other thing I don't like, the one I actually showed was the horizontal one. And I don't like the fact that some of the text is coming up in the next screen. I think if you've got lots of images, or the way you've placed the text, maybe you've got your image further on, you maybe see a bit of the image and you see all the text. I don't like having to move to the next bit to actually read all the text. So you can obviously do the slide version of it as well. I didn't show the slide, but that would show everything on the one screen. But I'm not a fan of the horizontal one at all. I much prefer doing things vertically. I just think it's much easier to read.
Yeah, well, that's that one that we just uploaded the information that was there. When you go into this design and then go into the styles, that's where it gives the option to have it vertical, as you said, horizontal. So if we look at where it's horizontal, just take that away, you can see it scrolling across there. And as you see, sometimes the text does go over the page. Personally, I don't like, and what it's done is it's automatically then kind of changed those pictures. It's reformatted those pictures there, and I can't actually read the whole question for that picture. The slides one, I think, is more like what you get from a PowerPoint. You're going through and you're clicking the arrows over on the right-hand side, and it's taking you through bit by bit. So depending on how you're sharing, depends on whether you want to go vertical, horizontal, and so on. And you get all those options and styles as well. And it took me like ages to figure out that, if I click that wee arrow, I get even more styles. And you can then go in and you can customize and you can pick other colors and things like that as well from it. The remix is great, but sometimes
I don't like that.
Oh no, that's not what I wanted. How do I go back? I can't go back. So there is some options there for you to play with. But sometimes, it takes it to a place that I can't get back to what I had before, and that becomes problematic.
Because I think the undo button only works so many times, so I don't tend to use remix. I don't like it. Again, it's the control freak in me. I just think one of the things as well that I've used them with children in school and given them they've had a topic, say with their project topic, and away and create. And I also went to school. It was primary fives I worked with a few years ago, and they went down and showed the primary twos how to use it. So it's something really simple that that children will pick up quickly, and then they can share their knowledge with other children as well. But they really, really liked it. And I think, and as you say, it's just it's quite a different option to PowerPoint, because I think that's, although PowerPoint's come on leaps and bounds recently, but it was the same for a long, long time.
I think within PhD and things like that as well, being able to have it is quite good as like a portfolio. So students can make a portfolio, or a learning log of what they've been doing, and then they can keep adding to it, and then they can easily share it out, and it can be shared out at home, or it can be shared with colleges or anything like that. It can be added to your CV. So it is there, and it is obviously within Glow and Office 365. But if you've got a Microsoft account, you can access it that way as well. So I've got some SWAYs. They're all my school ones, but I've actually got private ones as well that I use when I've done applications and things in the past. Being able to showcase yourself, or being able to showcase what you've learned and things.
Yeah, and the CV's one of the there's a couple of templates I think for CVs as well, so
Mhm.
that's a template if, you know, for pupils to use as well rather than because it's like the old if you create new, it's like the old blank sheet of paper in the exam. There you go, blank sheet of paper. But at
Yeah.
least if you've got a bit of a structure, it maybe makes you feel a wee bit more confident. But I think we've covered everything in the
Yeah, I've
hour.
noticed my camera's been flickering. I don't know what's happening there.
You've,
I
you've
seem to
been,
be
you've
kind of disappearing and coming back a wee
Yeah,
bit.
sometimes your voice has kind of disappeared a wee bit, but not for very long. It's been fine. You're definitely understandable. That's been
No,
fine.
that's good. That's good. Yeah, I think that's it. Just to, I mean, I was only coming in the last wee bit just to show some examples of how we've been using them. So, yeah, I'd love to see. Always say, you know, if you can go on and at Tablet Academy SC on Twitter and let us know how you've been using them. Are you still using them? I think a lot of people have maybe forgotten about it. They have used it and then they've stopped using it. And then when they come back to it, they go, oh, yeah, I forgot how good this was. Because other things come on that are similar to it, but don't quite do everything that you want it to do. So definitely tell us how you're using, if you're using it. That would be great.
Yep. Right. Thank you very much. And you will. I won't see you. Well, I might see you tomorrow night, but other people will see you tomorrow night doing your forms. Is that correct?
Yes,
Oh,
we're back for forms tomorrow night.
okie dokie. Right. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Take care, guys. See you later. Bye.